Everybody, I'm going to have you guys well-versed in my universe, so to speak, prior to this week's coming conversations. We're going to be talking about the equator this coming week. Now, it's going to be more than one discussion. As I said before, lots of data is involved, right? And that data is important. It is. Due to the nature of this issue, it's very important. We're also, it's going to be important that you guys understand the water event. So we will have we're going to go through the water event Wednesday of this coming week so that you guys understand what that is from a COT perspective, right? I don't believe that anybody else has been discussing a water event. I know they will be. But we kind of coined that here. It didn't make sense to a lot of people until they began to see some of the more consistent weather changes, just like the equator issue, right? The equator issue is not a well-understood issue. Although the Earth has been through this process, to my understanding, and by the data, at least 6 times, right? 6 times. So it's going to be a doozy. The only difference is this time around, we're alive. We're living in this time, so we know about that, right? But I want to remind you guys remember a long time ago we were talking about, I shared with you guys a long time ago about a very specific dream the Lord had given me. The water event is preceded by flying insects. Boy, you guys knew. The very place, that location where I observed quite a few things from. Insects have been all over the place, right? In fact, all over the world, there have been flying insects that have been just inundating places. And it's so funny how things happen, how they unfold. If a person has no knowledge, it's kind of like prophecy. Now, these dreams, they're not prophecy, they're just dreams, and it just so happens these dreams come to pass. I do believe they're from the Lord. I trust them. But I trust them. It's more my preparation than anything. And I believe that most often now I have dreams because I'm behind the microphone, of course. But Russia, parts of the USA, and more parts of the USA coming, all sorts of insects are being driven up to the surface. They're taking flight in large droves. So many things are happening, right? So many things. You guys have to get ready for the red rains. They're coming too. The red rains will come. They will come. They're coming. And a lot of people are going to be unsettled by these. If we can tackle these topics before they ever come, you guys will have an understanding as to what the mechanics are behind these things. Like red rain, for example, right? Or blood rain. People call that blood rain. If you understood what that actually is, right? It kind of takes the fear out of the red rains. We're going to see them all over the place. Lots of people are going to be sickened by it because it'll be a psychological sickness. Psychological sickness, which means they'll have no understanding of what it is, and it's going to make them psychologically sick. So they're going to have a hard time dealing with it. And believe it or not, we're in an environment right now, it's almost like a false sense of security is being pumped up with a lot of people. A lot of people have a false sense of security. I can tell you right now that sense of security that people have is going to be shattered painfully. It will. Hear me on this. There's no way we can continue to separate ourselves from the living God knowingly and have no consequences. It doesn't work that way. If God's word is true, he will correct his children. And God's correction can sometimes be harsh. You have to always remember that the Lord wants our souls saved. Our flesh is doomed. It's going to perish. It's doomed. It's kaput. but your soul is eternal. You do not stop. You don't go to sleep and never wake up and all this stuff, right? You continue. You transition and continue. Good or bad, right? You continue. And the Lord wants our souls saved. That's nothing in comparison to a person spending eternity separated from all light, all love, all hope. There's nothing like that. There's no comparison. The Lord does not want any of us to perish. Back to the water event. See how fast I drift? The water event, this is my belief. This is my belief. I know that it's going to be a very misunderstood thing. People are going to be frightened into believing that somehow it happened. When the water event hit, it's going to be global. Global, all at one time. Global, all at one time. Do you hear me? Global, all at one time. There will not be a spot on this earth a person will be able to step and not have water touch them. But then it will go away. It'll go away. A great war will also begin. It's going to cost lots of lives. I've noticed something else too, that I'm going to have to tackle a subject so that you guys are not frightened at all, because it's a very frightening subject. It has nothing to do with space. It has everything to do with Earth and the life forms in the Earth. So let me give you an example, because I want you guys grounded where you don't have fear. Fear will incapacitate you. You will. Fear can cause you to make some pretty drastic decisions. It'll cause you to become a selfish person. It can also cause you to become a murderer of others. Nobody wants that for anybody, right? Now, let me give you guys an example, since the stories are coming out anyway. There's no way they can hold the stories back. And I cannot explain these stories. You'll just have to hear them as they are presented. Okay, I'm going to have to get some water. I feel like I'm dehydrated. But animals are beginning to kill people viciously. And for some reason, right? For some reason, maybe because everybody has a device, people are have inadvertently recorded themselves being killed by animals. This is going to get out. You guys know what kind of society we live in. And the hunger of media, right? And the hunger of those who like entertainment. It will get out. It is, it's very unfortunate. It is. But nevertheless, it's happening more and more and more. More and more. I have, it's always disturbing for me to have knowledge of these things, to see them, right? You don't want to hear, and the first time I ever reviewed one of these captures, the same screams I've only heard in dreams, that no human being that I'm aware of has ever screamed like that. The same scream that these people who are being killed, that same scream that they scream with, I've only heard in dreams. I mean, it's almost impossible to believe that a human being can scream at that high of a pitch. Oh, wow. But people are being, now I've noticed something, guys. Now follow me on this, because you're going to hear about people who were killed by bears. I mean, to the point of death. For example, there's a guy and his wife. I believe there are four or five sets of this same story. A man and his wife killed by bears. I believe there are four different sets of these. Can you imagine? And it's recorded, right? the character of these people, because every time I see something like that, right, I have to know what the real deal is. I'll never see a story like this and just assume it can happen to anybody. You go back, I went back and looked at one person's life. This guy was a foul-mouthed individual. He was full of rage and anger. And again, he was foul-mouthed. He was defiant. This guy was ruthless. He cared only about himself. He didn't care what he had to use to promote himself, him and his wife. And they paid dearly for that. Their sufferings lasted for about 2 or 3 minutes. And both were consumed by the bears afterward. This happened, 4 or 5 different times to 4 or 5 different couples. That's only with the bears. There have been lots of other stories. I mean lots. You'd be surprised how many people have died and recorded it at the hands of animals. My firm belief is this. Those people who continue to sow discord, those people who continue to utilize this power of violence and rage, is a very dark thing. Those people who will easily attack other folks will be attacked themselves, and there's no escape for them. None. Right? We know that in Revelation it says that a portion of mankind is going to die, and animals are mentioned by the beasts of the earth. We're going to die by the beasts of the earth. Yes, our Father is allowing it. Jesus is the one that opens the seals, and these things begin to happen. It's our Savior who opens the seals. Now you should, more now than ever, you should see why it's important. The Lord said he has to have us secured. He'll have us secured first. Then all these worse things are unleashed. So his number one priority in the New Testament, right, given by the prophets to the people, is that those who choose to accept that final sacrifice, who is Jesus Christ, that they be secured within him. In other words, those that believe. Those that believe. If you truly believe, you're going to have the outcome that Christ spoke of. If you truly are rebellious in nature against the living God, then your outcome is going to be just as it is described in Revelation. So here we are. And I hope you guys understand that. I really do. Because you're going to hear more and more of these stories. I can already perceive people are going to be quite unsettled by this and quite fearful. Also take note that Jesus warned us. He told us at a time that people are not aware of. These things will begin to happen. In other words, there's going to be no prep time for people to get ready for this. It's going to be too late for the world. They will make their choice. These days are coming. They're happening already. Somebody says, somebody wants to know, how high of an elevation is the water going to rise? Here's the difficulty with the water event. We know that we have, do you guys understand the general makeup of the earth? I know for some it's going to be new, but most of what's in the earth is very complex structure, land masses, right? The earth is essentially a huge landmass over the surface, first and foremost, right? You have basins, which then are the oceans full of water. But essentially, the earth is one big, huge landmass. If you take the water away, everything is connected. Okay? Everything is connected. When you take the water away, the only separation would be those areas that are separated by magma, which will be small areas, but for the most part, everything is one big, huge landmass. still to this day. So hopefully it's not too difficult for you to understand that with no water, if you were to take or evacuate there or somehow get rid of the water in the oceans and lakes, you would notice that everything is one huge landmass. The oceans separate continents, and that erosive look that ties the continents in like a puzzle, that is, that's on purpose. It's because Earth is essentially like a puzzle, and in between the unlike a puzzle, all the pieces are connected. In between the cracks or the valleys, you have water, but essentially it's one big landmass. Now, these continental plates, like America, for example, America has at least 8 plates in America. And what that means is, underneath the Earth, you have a type of fluid dynamic that's causing the everything to be like it is. The altitude's topology is different because of what's underneath the Earth. If the magma continues to churn and water continues to breach the surface and mud volcanoes continue to go off, giving a good indication of severe change underneath their feet, well, if that were to be exposed, you would understand that some of these states, right, within the United States can in fact sink about 200 or 300 feet. Okay? In some cases, there are places in America that could sink 1,000 feet. Now, when you take all this into consideration with a water event, that's a lot, that's heaviness applied to the rim of a plate. With that type of weight, it's going to cause a shift internally, right? And when that shift takes place, you're going to have certain states that go up maybe 200 feet, 300 feet, 1,000 feet. And you're going to have certain states that will drop 1,000 to 2,000 feet. Okay? So as far as the water level is concerned, it's very difficult to project because we don't have a static planet. Right? We don't have a planet that does not change as far as its, continents and altitude of those continents. West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Ohio, all the way up to New York, Maine, all these places, there is a very intricate system that is watched by the Army Corps of Engineers, as well as institutions around the globe, not just the USA, but around the globe. They know that the Appalachian mountain chain is very fragile. And underneath that mountain structure is magma and some more things. If the Earth ever gets charged to the point where it can actually affect the low levels of these ranges, because they know this, they know that at some point, these mountain ranges are going to lose altitude in one day. One day, right? And in that case, everything changes. Everything changes. So the water event would it's going to inundate just about everybody. It's not going to be destruction by water. It'll be, even if it were 2 inches of water over the surface of the Earth or land masses, that's a pretty significant deal, right? Very significant deal. Where would that water come from in so vast a time? One of 2 places. Either storms are going to move that water in, that's a lot, but we have storms that support that much water. It can essentially take that much water and drop it right on the USA, right? Or there are these internal oceans with superheated water that are locked up in these, you call them pressure vaults of the Earth. With the magma churning, it's going to cause these things, and this is where you get these mud volcanoes. You're going to have more and more places spew out gas and mud, things like that, right? All over the USA. All over the USA. So, there we are with that. right? It's not so much a question as how high will the water rise. When it hits the lip of the USA, when it hits the rim of a country, it's going to disrupt the balance of that country. And so topology is going to be changed rapidly. Rapidly. How soon do I think for the water event? I think that it's at the door, meaning you already have flying insects being driven up from the earth, all over the earth, right? And it's going to get pretty nasty. You already have that. And this precedes the water event period. The flying insects surfacing all over the earth. Question, impact you mentioned on past fall. Well, we have a guaranteed impact. We do. Hey, guys, let's go ahead and face it. We can only see, again, if you were to look at the sky and then take your finger, right, stretch your arm all the way out, put your index finger up. Your finger covers the part of the sky that all this money that we have, that's how much of the sky we can track. The spot that's covered up by your finger. The rest, we don't know. We don't know the rest. So, but they do on occasion pick up things, right? They pick up things that they cannot share because they know the implications of it. They already know. And they're not going to share some impending doom with anybody. They're not doing that. So it's this, Michael, for the guaranteed impact that is known. Can we know when that is? Anticipated date? No, sir. No. You know why? I tell you, what's important is that we're going to have clusters of impacts here on this earth. And I know it's not going to make sense. But when the first impact takes place, when we have an impact, then people will truly begin to understand we cannot see what we thought we could see, right? Now, we can see a lot. But it's so vast out there, right? It's so vast that we would have to have something sweep at a really accelerated rate to track, quantify its location, all that good stuff, and then find the trajectory towards Earth. We'd have to have a lot of continuous computing power to do that. Now, for the most part, that little percentage of the sky that is covered, it utilizes a lot of computing power, right, to extract telemetry from these things and probabilities and outcomes and this, that, and the other, right? Artificial intelligence is helping out by tracking objects and then running simulations. Every simulation to see what the absolute, what the absolute danger is with the object. But there's always going to be something you cannot see. No matter what mankind does, he's going to have blind spots. It's those blind spots that have always been the undoing of humanity, right? People know a lot of objects coming. I have to use the Bible for this because in the Bible, it was always the place they had no mind to look into that got them, right? It's kind of like it's always that one snake that you never suspected on that specific day at that specific time that bit you. It was not the snakes you knew about. It was not the snakes based upon the habitats that you may have known about. It was that snake that seemingly was out of place at the wrong season, at the wrong time, but basically it was in an area you had no mind to look into. Right now, everybody's fixated on these things they know about. If you take careful inventory of the issues on this earth, it's always been the areas you did not think about, or the areas that have never been publicized. Those are the areas that have bit humanity multiple times. Never the areas they can see. So what you know about, that's not coming to get you. That's not going to get you. It's what you don't know about. What humanity can see. They're studying things out there right now, like a binary star, right? They're studying binary systems all over the place. They're fixated on a very special one now because of its influence upon us. A binary star is not going to hit us. That's not the problem. See, but you can't track every object of a solar system. We are still finding things that belong to our solar system. Think about that. Think about that. We're always finding objects that belong to our solar system. Even as of 2 days ago, they find objects that belong to our solar system, right? But you can't watch everything. And it's very difficult to tell what belongs to what solar system when they're so far out. So they may not be able to see the dangerous thing. Somebody says, what are we going to have when the poles flip? We're going to have water problems. If we go through a physical flip, yes, we'll have water problems. I use that word if, because we have to go over a lot of data so that you guys understand some things. But if the physical Earth alters by way of degrees, even about, 5 degrees abruptly, we're in trouble. There'll be a tsunami on every continent. Every single last one of them. I'm not talking about things that are interesting for entertainment. That's not what I'm doing, right? These are things from hands-on missions. So it's not it's not theoretical. This is the hope that when you begin to tangle with things, you'll have some sort of an idea as to the nature of what you're tangling with. See, I anticipate that people are going to have a very rough time because they really think they have a handle on things. And it just so happens, folks like myself, we have experience in areas of life that make no sense. Nevertheless, real death and real casualties come from those areas of life. Now, if anybody has ever gone through any of that, of course, if they had an ounce of a heart in them, they're going to want their fellow man not to be overtaken by these things. That would be gut-wrenching to me. That would be heartbreaking and unforgivable. I desire people to be prepared for it, right? Which is why I talk about spiritual things so much. Because the nature of this world is going to change. And those who have not tackled the absolutes, and not this theoretical stuff about spirits, but the reality of what that realm actually is. And when people, who are in this realm begin to interact with it, what can take place? If they don't cover that, then what are they doing? What are they doing? There are people out there right now who have absolutely gone through some very real things, right? And for the most part, people, they're going to get their scoffers because people get scared to death over certain subjects. And see, because when somebody talks about this stuff for real, it's not going to be some, entertainment conversation. It can scare people. The point is not to scare you. The point is to talk about real things you're going to have to contend with. God bless you. May the Lord keep you always. I'll see you guys next time.